The moon is dark and the wind is high at night. A figure approached. He was wearing a cloak. Quietly came to the room where the lime recuperated. Although we have no grudges, you should consider this the price to pay for me. Men don't talk nonsense either. And I saw him raise his arm lightly. Immediately insert the juvenile neck stem. But unexpectedly, it's crooked, and Lime was staring at him with the eyes of a dead man. Then he chuckled, grabbed the other person's wrist immediately. The boy stood up, laughed like a 20-50-80,000, said, "I got you." The man felt bad. A claw of blood. Pounced. The boy stepped on the back of his neck. Just jump down gently. Wait until the other party turns around and attacks again. Qingming jumped up again. I thought that the other party would not be able to hide in the air. Was kicked in the air by him. Actually kicked his own internal force away. The man under the cloak was horrified. It's not food. This means it must be an internal force. You have to have a lot of control to be able to do it. Uncle, you don't seem to have figured it out. The person who was caught was not me. It's an uncle. Do you understand it yourself? The young regiment master who had been squatting here for a long time took the guards. Recognized the man at a glance. It is the team within the business group. The deacon of the support class is cleared. Slowly pick up the headband. I'm talking about it. He's going to show up? The class deacon didn't understand. Why would it be suspicious to his head? What he didn't know, however, was they never suspected anyone. Just gave the murderer a big chance. The murderer wanted Lord Huang to die in an accident. And I can heal him. In the end, he pretended to be injured. And my death. It just happens to be pushed on the body of the Central and South faction. Even if it's a fool, I won't miss this opportunity. Ban just wasn't willing. He didn't understand. The internal wounds of the imp are so severe. Even the doctor has been diagnosed. And Qingming still chuckled. If you can't even fool an ordinary doctor, he wouldn't have chosen it at all. Choose to do so. I see that you are confused a lot, uncle. But the most important thing now is not to help you answer. Rather, you have fallen into our trap. Other words, you are the one who tried to kill Lord Huang. But Deacon Ban was still arguing. They had no evidence of murder of the head of their household, and he served as a deacon of the merchant group. The death of the head of the house did not do him any good. The reason why you want to kill this little ghost, it's because he thinks that the other party has confused the young group master. There are so many doctors in the world who can't cure the disease. How can a hairy boy have a way? I just saw that you believed in him so much. That's where the decision came in. 4. Just don't let this kid worsen the condition of the head of the family. And Qingming listened to the old thing forcing Lai. My ears are calloused, and I saw him walking slowly. The internal force gradually condensed into his fist. He said that he couldn't ask if he just beat him up. Banji was shocked. A backhand is luck. A clear fist was bounced away by Qi in an instant. And this. It also happened to leave a piece of magic flower poison on his wrist. Then the boy raised his wounded palm. Let the young group master see clearly. He said it was called a single magic hand. If you are hit by this move of the cultivation master, in general, you shouldn't be able to hold on to a meal. Will be poisoned to death. Of course, this is not enough. But it can also kill. Especially an ordinary old man Huang who doesn't know martial arts. And uncle, if you can name anything other than you. Who else can be by Lord Huang's side? Continuously infuse a single demon head, without being suspected. Then we believe that the prisoner is not you. Hearing this, the young group master no longer had the slightest doubt. An immediate order was given to the arrest of the team members. If you resist, kill on the spot. But that's a demon cult. How could he be captured easily by the guards alone? Li Songbai, who was full of grievances in the distance. Recall the words of the priest elders. He understood to keep him here. Seems to be a task. It's a punishment. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. Pulled him back from his thoughts. What's going on? And Ban just erupted out of Zhongdan's demon hand. The guards were already bombarded unconscious by him. Only Qingming stood in front of the young group master. He asked the old man to go with them to the yamen. Otherwise, he will not be responsible for being killed. But the deacon is not strong. But the current Qingming has no intention of exposing himself. And he looked back. It just so happened that our heroes in Zhongnan wanted to suppress the devil. Here we are. Li Songbai is not stupid. On the contrary, it is very smart. Although I was cheated by that guy. But the teenager simply clicked. Then look at the young group master with an unkind face. That's when he realized. Maybe that's the perfect opportunity for me to clean up the mess. It is said that the heart of a child is like a mirror. But certainly not him. Qingming has been away for 100 years. The boy finally went down the mountain again without permission. The first business group in Shaanxi. It took another year. None of the problems were found. He has been here for less than 3 days. I found out the inner ghost. He even used Zhongnan disciples to seriously injure him. The young group owner has been in the mall for a long time. See where it is today. I also have to wonder, every step of the way so far. Will, it was all done by this teenager who seemed to be in his teens. Until Li Songbai went through the calamity. That's what took him out of that seemingly ridiculous thought. Pull back. Qing Ling is decided. This kid will save the relationship between the merchant group and the sect. Do your best. But they fought for more than an hour. It was quite a surprise to Qingling. Trail Chief, do you know why Banzi wanted to murder you, Jiafu? And there are many doubts in the clear spirit. Naturally, it will not be easy to get out of the demon sect and the demon palace. Cause panic not to say. He couldn't explain it yet. So all I have to do is solve the problem. Then take the money and leave. Hear this. The young group master is also dumb. As long as the boy could get his father out of bed, get back on your feet, he could then make a promise on his father's behalf. Gather the strength of business groups to support Huashan. What Qing Ling grabbed his hand fiercely. He didn't expect the boy to be so excited. But then I heard him say that he was playing with himself. How can I do it? The benefits are given to Huashan. Put aside this to play the cow and fight the horse cushion. Good guy. This will be the young master's CPU must have burned. After a while, Qingling returned to the group master's bedroom. I haven't encountered any difficulties so far. By the way, it also made the central and southern factions suffer a loss. But the biggest problem is this. His current internal strength. Heal Lord Huang's magic flower poison. In fact, there is no certainty of rash action. If it is to let the demonic energy attack. This is really even to Luo, Jinxian can't get it back. But today's rivers and lakes. It is difficult to find another person who understands demonic energy. At this point, he could only choose to give it a go. I saw Qingming cautiously raise Lord Huang's hand. Precisely control the flow of one's true qi into its meridians. Suddenly, an incarnation of an internal force. Then he came to Lord Huang's body. Look up. That's when I found out. Dense demonic qi was entrenched in his body. Almost satisfied. And they resemble ferocious snakes. It seems that Qingling has also been discovered. At this time, the teenager's scalp was already numb. He didn't expect it at all. The half-baked demonic spirit of the team is still so difficult. You can't go back. So Qingling rushed forward without saying a word. And in the outside world, the redness on Lord Huang's arm. It's fading at a speed visible to the naked eye. It can have this effect. Even Qingming was surprised. Under his own sword, these demonic qi were cleared by him, like papier-mâché. Think about it. Maybe it's also thanks to him for so long. Completely obsessed with the purification of internal forces. Otherwise, only by the previous evidence. The internal force of the medicinal power is clear. It should be more than 10 times higher than it is now. And Huashan Daodong and the demon are incompatible. Then next, it all depends on whether Master Huang's body can hold it. Taste the sweetness. Qingming also let go of his hands and feet. Every second that passes, Master Huang is in danger. He had to use the fastest speed to completely remove the demonic energy. It's just that these things seem to have a little bit of consciousness. After being chopped by him like a melon and a vegetable, they all took the initiative to retreat. I opened my eyes in surprise. Turn your head to look. This bunch of slash things. It all ran to Master Huang's head. This is a really tricky one. Aggressive words. Master Huang will die. But stop now. Master Huang will also be killed on the spot because of the fury of the demonic energy. The little devil is very clear for a while. He's naughty. But he also knew that Master Huang would definitely not have an accident. So he controls a wisp of internal force. Cautiously came to the heart of Qi Mei. While the demonic energy has not yet gone berserk, he chose to drive them into his own body. In an instant, the demonic energy had already crawled all over most of Qing Ling's body. Suddenly, there was a clicking sound all over his body. A violent explosion exploded from within him, instantly suppressed almost all of his resistance. At this time, Qing Ling was already tortured by it and almost fainted. But after all, it was the plum blossom sword honored by countless people. This time, even the temper in his head did not allow him to fall. If he all faints, then it's completely over. At this time, the boy was already in ruins. It has to be done quickly. However, in the face of the demonic energy that fills the whole body, even if he has the means to restrain himself, the list is endless. Coming at him, it's just a blessing. Complete one's misery. The demonic aura of the ferocious snake knows that there is no way to retreat. The rampage is even crazier, plus their own physical and internal forces at the same time. The anti-spirit has long been exhausted. I'm afraid it will drag on if it continues. Sure enough, it was doubled in consumption. He still showed his flaws. The snake's fangs pierced deep into the clear spirit's body. The breath of two countless ferocious snakes gradually submerged him. At this time, he once again fell into a dead end, and the current situation also gave him one last option. It can completely introduce the internal force of the Dantian into the meridians of the whole body. Then it erupted at the same time. In this way, of course, these demonic chi can be dismantled in an instant. But there are many of the 8 meridians of human beings. There is a slight deviation in this process. He also died violently on the spot. Qingming didn't have a choice. With a frightening, his whole body, each meridian roared at the same time. That pain is far more unbearable than cramping. As the demonic energy completely dissipated from his body, the boy also fell. His body was also damaged by the violent movement just now. A large expanse of excess, true qi gushed out. After a while, he opened his eyes in confusion. That's when I suddenly realized. Hurriedly got up. This ghost door was closed. He's familiar, but so crazy to die. It still made him shudder. Obviously, today's Qingming can't deal with demonic energy. Today is really lucky. It's just a fluke. I found that Lord Huang had also woken up at this time. That's when he smiled. The old man was still very weak at this time. The first time I saw the appearance of the boy, that's when I asked who you were, looking at the people who saved them with their lives. Qingming is also welcome. He said, who else could I be? Of course, it's the gods who came to save you. So far, after Huang Wenruo woke up, the truth of the matter was soon investigated. Team Fu's original plan was to destroy the royal family. Previously, because he deliberately erased the Galactic Merchant Group. It was not found. He was originally the owner of a merchant group that had competed with the royal family. After that, as for the source of the single magic hand, he said that he had found it on a corpse that he had encountered on his way to the merchants. It's so white. Busy, but that also explains, why do the people of the demon cult do things so low-key? Anyway, it's done. It can also be said that everyone is happy. Qingming is a distinguished guest of the Galaxy Business Group. In less than 3 days, he was raised to be a fat guy. Lord Huang, who had recovered a little, came to look for him. I almost didn't recognize it. This is the little Taoist who saved himself before. Even when I saw the old man, he was not pretentious. The grace of recreation. Hate is nothing to repay. But that's not what Qingming wants. Hurriedly took the chicken leg in his mouth and asked him to hurry up. To say that there are so many young people's hearts. Said that the person who stole the door did not dare to bring into. But it was inadvertently pointed out. This time, it was urgent to go down the mountain to save 100,000 people. It didn't go through the division, and it rained. The old man is old. I can't stand this kind of affection. Say whatever you say, and repay it well. Seeing that the fire is very hot. Qingming also unceremoniously took out the booklet. Thick one. It was all he had thought about in advance. I want to find what Master Huang wants. The old man didn't know what the situation was at this time. I heard the fat guy smiling brightly, so let's get started. It's twilight. Grandpa Huang also returned to the study. Speaking of which, he was saved by the Taoist chief, so seriously ill. But it didn't leave the root of the disease. I feel like I'm 10 years younger. Glancing at his son. You don't understand. Why did the old man cut Zhongnan's voice and promise to give Huashan a large amount of remuneration? Yes, it was broken by his father. The young group leader didn't panic. The reward they have given to Huashan is already very rich. Moreover, Xi'an is the boundary of central and southern China. My father didn't just take a risk, is even more disregarded by the already mature business. It really didn't make him understand. However, Master Huang just looked at the famous product on his back and said, "Young leader, do you know what the duties of a businessman are?" Maybe it's because I'm too nervous about my father. His statements are rigid and high-sounding. This made Master Huang laugh. Looked at his son, who was pretending to be confused. Master Huang is actually very satisfied. But less group master. You should be clear. A businessman's duty is to make money. Moreover, making money in business has nothing to do with the CPPCC. It's just about efficiency. The reason why our Galaxy Business Group has today's status. It depends on vision and courage. You also see the potential of Huashan today. Now it cannot be compared with Zhongnan. Yes, but if we can at this time, connect with them and help them grow stronger. The benefits can be maximized in the future. Before, in order to find a giant python, I can say that there is money all over the world. But I didn't expect that. This Qianlong is about to ascend to heaven. Actually took the initiative to find the door. And just think about what you promised. It can become an indelible burden in that child's heart. The basic interests of the merchant community will not be damaged in the future. Arguably, this time the transaction is already a sure profit. It's just a price to pay in the end. 5 times more than I expected. This is something I never expected. On the other side, the boy was enjoying the sunset. But in my head, I was thinking, why is this Lord Huang so generous? To say that there is not a request. He certainly didn't believe it. I'm not stupid enough to help with everything anyway. Notice the movement on the side to clear. Look up. Li Songbai seems to come with obsession. Then he handed out a wooden sword. He said I had no ill intentions. And I figured it out too. You deliberately tricked me in order to solve the business group's affairs. But I also calculated it against you. It's just a thing that really hurts me. It's a sparring before that. I still don't understand what I went through at the time. I know. Xiao Daochang's martial arts should be much stronger than me. But I'm still trying to figure it out. What exactly happened before? At first, it was just a surprise. Gradually, she also developed a little love for money. After all, this nose is better than. The high-eyed Zhongnan is arrogant. It is indeed rare to be able to bend the waist for the 5 paths. I saw her smile kindly. You may regret it. That's it. The two came to the martial arts arena where the merchant group trained the guards. Li Songba still feels ridiculous. Qingming's age is among the 3 generations of disciples. It's very young, but he can be in the other party. Feel the huge gap. This sense of oppression. Even in the face of the elders, it has never been so exaggerated. Is this really the child's release? And Qingming also discovered the acumen of the youth. This excellent perception is not harmful to the initial practice of martial arts. But the further back, the more you can give full play to the advantages that almost dominate the situation of the battle. Maybe you're mentoring yourself, a future #1 archer in Central and South China. The boy held out a hand. A simple move signaled that Li Songbai could take the lead. He didn't talk nonsense either. However, his gesture unexpectedly brought out the afterimage of the Tao. Zhongnan's swordsmanship, he understood, has always been extremely domineering, and the skill of changing the sword. It can be said that none of them have always been suitable for them. This made Lime suddenly a little confused. I heard the other parties say, "This is Zhongnan's latest martial arts, Snowflake 12 style," while dancing the shadow of the sword. Finally, Qingling also saw the clue. Your move followed Li Songbai to the tower. The young man's eyes were even more inexplicably murderous. Just a moment. With the breaking of the wooden sword, Li Songbai was also beaten upside down and flew out. The moment when it is about to land, Qingling came to the front in an instant, grabbed him by the collar. "Pull him up. Quartz is pushing too hard." Blood in the boy's mouth. I couldn't stop coughing it out. What bullshit, Snowflake 12. Deceived me, Huashan, and broke the inheritance. This is one of the 24 plum blossoms swordsmanship. It embodies the essence of Huashan. Plum blossoms. But now Huashan's swordsmanship is lost. But in your hands. And yet these words. Songbai didn't listen to a word, seeing that his 5 senses had just been deprived by a light sword. Now he finally understood what he was up against. This is definitely the power of ghosts and gods. I'm gonna die. I don't know when. Li Songbai opened his eyes again. I realized immediately what I had been through. Get up slowly. Look at the scars on your body. Only then did I hear the sound of clearing on the side. I've smoothed out all your internal organs. The rest were skin injuries. It will get better soon. But your move is Zhongnan's new martial arts. What else is it called, Snowflake 12? After receiving an affirmative answer, Qingling was even more angry and gritted his teeth. It's really infuriating. There is no one in my Huashan. Then Qingling learned. This set of swordsmanship elders did not follow. Those who are currently eligible to study. There are only 1 generation of disciples and 2 generations of disciples. Other words, the guy who finally packaged this set of swordsmanship, still in the Central South Pie. Back then, the heavenly demons were encircled and suppressed. There are only some 2nd-generation disciples and children living in Huashan. The remnants of the demon cult counterattack. The entire mountain gate must be powerless to stop. And Zhongnan is almost adjacent to Huashan. Even if the 2 factions have dislikes, they are terrible in the way of words. I can't watch the fire from the other side. Come on now. Most likely, some of them are pretending to support Huashan. In fact, it is a martial art that is given to Huashan. There is another possibility. The group of people who took advantage of the situation at that time. It's not a remnant of the demon cult at all. It's really a group of righteous people who will take revenge. The more I think about it, the more angry I get. But he didn't pour his anger on Li Songbai again. Just advised him not to practice this move again, because Zhongnan's route is basically hard qigong. Use Zhongnan's mental method to practice phantom sword martial arts. It will only be nondescript. Go round the sun to meet the moon. Fell down the city. However, Li Songbai did not understand. This made Qingming very speechless. Think about it. As a disciple of Zhongnan, if he can't understand their kendo, why should he help him to be right? But this kind of thing is in this kind of long-standing big school. Is it really going to happen? Wait, it's because of me. A disciple of Zhongnan 100 years ago. They are steadfast in their hearts. Naturally, this is not the case. But then I was relying on 24 hands of plum blossom swordsmanship. Almost beat them up and down. Along with their pride. Is this gone? What a bunch of idiots. If I was born Chungnam, Later generations will also call me Zhongnan Jianzuan. It's not a matter of inheritance. Qingming glanced at Li Songbai. Even if you want to tell him, it doesn't change anything. After all, he is not to blame. So the boy didn't say anything more. Step and leave. Li Songbai wanted to ask something more. Qingming didn't look back. Forget what I just said. You should decide your own path. Anyone's teachings to you can only be used as a reference. Good talent should be matched with a spirit that is enough to match. To grow up, although still ignorant. But Li Songbai understood. This is a sincere teaching from the other side. So he immediately got out of bed. Hold your fist in earnest. Thank you very much for your teachings. Seeing this, Qingming smiled softly. Wave your hand to show you don't care. That's when he left. Half a day. The sullen breath in Qingming's heart could not be dispersed. If it was before, he had already rushed to Zhongnan to smash them. But his current strength does not allow it. And the rivers and lakes are still the law of the jungle. Brother, I have to get stronger as soon as possible. Zhongnan sent you to provoke people who shouldn't be messed with. In Huashan here, some people are already jumping to their feet. Xiaojia bit his nails. He and senior brother Ian would already be sweating profusely. It's been 7 days. Did that kid encounter something big? It's just that 3 generations of disciples went down the mountain privately. If there is not a plausible explanation, sure enough, in the council chamber, Cloud Sword is like a child who has made a mistake. The master of the financial pavilion was even more angry and blew his beard and glared at his face. His advocacy is to punish the zero-COVID policy severely. Huashan has finally recovered a little now. The rules can't just let him break like that. If Nagato doesn't care. This incident is enough to shake the foundation of Huashan today. And the Lord of the 5 Pavilions is Xian. The bottom of his heart. It's always felt. There are high people passing through the hands of the child in Qingming. Aid to Huashan. So the words are still slightly biased. Anyway, they all want to wait for him to come back first. Make a decision after you understand it clearly. The two argued. The head who had been silent sighed softly. There was a slight stinginess in his eyes. Shut them up. He didn't know if he had mistaken the child. The room was quiet. Yun Jin hurriedly hoped to organize a search team. Even if you go through the entire Huashan and Huayin County. Also back. The sound outside the house instantly aroused the attention of the 4 people. The head of the house was the first to break out. His eyes were full of joy to the naked eye. Because of Qingming, is taking the steps of not recognizing the 6 relatives and returning to the sect. Yun Yin looked at the battle. It was the first time he felt like he was talking. The elders heard it so clearly. However, Nagato was about to take a look. Is there anything wrong with that kid? Was stopped by the master of the Taijing Pavilion. This old referee is really scared. Reminds senior brother earnestly. Don't choose unconditional inclusion, because it will only ruin the goodness of the child. Xian was also speechless. He hadn't really come into contact with Qingming. Naturally, it is not clear. But in order not to worry the junior brother, that's when he promised. If it is clear and unharmed. Since he met with the immortal official, he was confined for half a month. In Yun Jin, this kid is old-fashioned. He said that he was grossly negligent in violating the teacher's order. According to the rules, you have to tear the yamen wall for at least half a year. If the boss disagrees, then he is old. The teacher will also face the wall for him. Xian swept from his eyes. I found that the rest of the people also felt that this was more appropriate. Only then did he frown. Open your eyes again. He accepted everyone's offer. Take a few people to the mountain gate. And Qingming just came back. See Xian Song. He didn't look any cramped. Respectfully met the head of the queen. Just wait. Xian Song took a deep look at the young man. He said that you have no choice but to leave the mountain gate. Qingming nodded. The master of the finance pavilion is going to explode his lungs at this moment. In front of so many 3 generations of disciples. I can't give a good reason. This will directly affect the prestige of the door rules. And Xuanzong just stared at him. Let him explain why. I saw Qingming pretending to be frightened by the elders. Meanwhile, a clear cough came. Old man Huang wants to excuse the young man. Also, in order to discuss cooperation, he actually chose to go to Huashan in person. Xuanzong saw him. Catch it now. But it's weird. I just received a letter from Mr. Huang 7 days ago. The letter says you are ill. Why did I suddenly see it today? Master Huang smiled, said that this must not be saved by the Qingming Trail. I just got my life back, so please calm your anger. Don't blame him. At this point, Qing Ling shrugged his shoulders awkwardly. It's just that he didn't get away with it. Inside the council chamber, the boy was kneeling on the ground. A serious nonsense, said that Master Huang's illness was caused by wooing grass. This is a poisonous weed that beggars often encounter. The symptoms are strange, difficult to pinpoint, but detoxification is not difficult. I was a little beggar just before I went up the mountain, so know how to treat. Just these rhetoric. He had already spoken to Master Huang. The 5 yin grasses are indeed wrong. I guess I can get over it anyway. And Yun Jian heard this. I want to say that there are extenuating circumstances. Xuanzong was even more happy to quit throwing off the donkey. Yun Yin felt it. This is not appropriate. He felt that if the rules were broken, he would be punished. Even if the reason is to do good. It's just that it's not finished yet. I saw Xian Tsong's eyebrows raised. He quickly understood his disciple's intentions. So he said Yun Yin with a stern tone. Do you think the rules of the door or the human life are more important? Should I praise a man for his recklessness for human life? Is it just a hint at the disciples who came back? Moreover, we Huashan are a sect that pursues the right path. Nothing could be more important than chivalry. Hearing this, Yun Yin said that he was lacking in thought. But then I breathed a sigh of relief. He came to provoke this topic of opposition. The boss is good to show his anger. So, the other elders should not give Qingming any more punishments. I saw Xuanzong slowly get up. Come to the boy. He said, Qingming, it's been a hard time for you this time. Ben is well-intentioned. But Qingming's seniority is higher than him. I don't know how high. I had to press it to endure the unpleasantness. Indicates that it is fine. Half a day, Huangda showed it. Another purpose of this visit to Huashan. He said Qingming. The chief of the trail gave all the credit to Huashan. Therefore, in order to repay the grace of saving lives, I intend to give my full support to Huashan. And Xuanzong immediately heard the meaning of the words. Master Huang said it was support. Instead of investing, it's almost in response to that sentence, and I have the final say. In this visit, the Galactic Merchant Group dispatched almost all of the Forbidden City. Recently, it could be analyzed. What does Huashan need them to do now? Happiness came too suddenly. The head of the house almost failed to catch the gift. This will look back at the teenager. Spring is about to emerge in my eyes. So he left the subject of the finance and economics pavilion Yun Yin. Immediately start deploying the next arrangements with Lord Huang. On the way back, the mood of the 5 pavilion lords is even better. Qingming this small body. Where can I afford such a big joke? I heard him laughing and talking light. It's already great if it's saving people. What's more, you are still saving Lord Huang. And after the 5 pavilion lords walked away, Yun Jin also called out Qingming. He sternly admonished the boy. Don't be too frizzy in the future. So Qingming was respectful on the surface. In the bottom of my heart, I was secretly scolding this guy for being too old-fashioned. It was a sneak peek. He was surprised to find. This middle-aged man has a lot of color on his expression. Happiness and worry were all written on his face. Yun Jin was also afraid that he would not be able to control it well. The same stride left first. It's a lot of painstaking work. But Qing Ling was also a little relieved at this time, because today's Huashan is still decaying. Can be everyone. Their hearts are deeply entangled with Huashan. I saw the young man smile lightly. Senior brother, I also have back pain. You know what martial arts are as they are. When you watch over them like a god of war, they will flock to you, close to you, and even do everything possible to tie you to them. Your sacrifices. There are countless people who are sobbing over it, and those who really have the heart to repay this kindness. But it's rare. So when the head of the merchant group, Lord Huang, said to the young man, when we were people tied to a boat, Ching's heart is resistant. Seeing this, Lord Huang also chose to be honest. He said, boat fisherman. It's just a tool indeed. Gas can be on copper and down. But if the destination is the same, naturally, there was no need for him to disembark halfway. After all, two people paddle together. The speed will be faster, isn't it? But the clear eyes are looking at the mountain gate. Non-committal. Lord Huang is the first business group owner in Shaanxi, looking at the teenager. Finally, there was a little solemnity, maybe in the eyes of the kid in front of him. As long as he's there, the revival of Huashan is inevitable. In this way, they're a game of old and young. It's actually very intriguing. Lord Huang ordered that he would do his best. Holding Huashan Qingming is to understand in seconds. Do you want to be an enemy of Zhongnan? After receiving an affirmative answer, the boy played the scoundrel again. He said, we didn't let you do it. The old man knows, but I just hope that the little Taoist knows about it. The two laughed like grandchildren. Secretly, they dislike each other. And Master Huang, I really admired this young man from the bottom of my heart. But what he didn't know was, Qingming is a human being. Combined, they are not younger than him. So in the face of him, the rivers and lakes are vast. When young people still know that it is better to forbear, Qingming couldn't help but sneer. He's smart. Didn't take Lord Huang's face. Because this sentence is indeed true. Wait until the two of them say goodbye. Lord Huang looked up. After a long time in the mall, his eyes are wandering. Look at this familiar Huashan faction again. Muttered, this place is simply called Long Yuan. It should be more appropriate. The young leader did not hear his father's whispering, but he could feel the surprise in his father's face. He understood. Their Galaxy Merchant Group will be inseparable from Huashan in the future. And Qingming finally breathed a sigh of relief at this time. The obstacles that Huashan is now obsessed with have finally been solved. From now on, we must focus on martial arts without distractions. In fact, it was just as he expected. The strength of the Galactic Merchant Group. Soon the Huayin County, which was about to collapse, became lively. Also thanks to them, the expression on the face of the Lord of the Lottery Pavilion. It's been a time when I can't control myself. Only when the head of the house discussed what reward to give to Qingling. He finally got angry. Because of today's Huashan, the thing that can be given to a teenager is almost 0.5. The pavilion Lord Xianshang proposed to bring the secret notes that were discovered recently. After they have studied it, give it to them for cultivation. But he was disgusted to death by the master of the financial pavilion. He struggled with the meaning of the word reward. Also blamed the head of the house for saying that Qingling was practicing penance every day in the White Eyebrows Pavilion. Now send him the secrets. This is for the child to increase burden, and since it is rewarded, to give something that we would all be stingy, of course, can show sincerity. The more he talked, the more excited he became. Originally listened to his words. The head is confused. But on second thought, actually it makes sense. Over the past few decades, this junior brother is in charge of Huashan's livelihood. How terrible it is to take care of a declining sect. I think only he can understand it. Their own juniors bring this to the scene. You can imagine how much the junior brother loves it. But this kid is so excited. It doesn't seem to be the state of the discussion. Xianshang also found this. I had to smile. Dragged this obsessed junior brother out. I hope you understand. In his heart, too much repression. In this way, the time of Huashan passed day by day. The days of practice of the 3 generations of disciples were hard. But it's clear. Qingling, before he killed people, There is no intention to take the burden off them. Among them, Zhao Jie has the best talent. It was even more gratifying to Qing Ling. And the senior brother doesn't have the talent of Xiao Jie. But he became more and more comfortable with the training of the devil's underworld. He did have worries, because Huashan swordsmanship is a fast sword based on transformation. So they have always felt the strength of the exercise will hinder the development of swordsmanship. I don't know why. When he really gets his body up and running, the speed and sharpness of the swing of the sword are increasing exponentially. This change is visible to the naked eye. And not only yourself. Everyone is actively striving for better results. As a big brother, he knew they had changed. It's just a change in the appearance of the guys. Or let him feel. The Huashan faction is becoming more and more like a den of bandits. And Qingming, since the children began to practice spontaneously. No more overseers. Xiaojie said that he always seemed to be the first to get up. But where exactly did it go? I don't know. The two talked about the changes in their bodies now. Although everyone is getting stronger. A few references are missing. But they always feel. If it's your former self, 2 or 3 of him should be able to handle it easily. But Xiaojie was not satisfied. Because that convention is going to be held again. He wants to be stronger. So the two little beasts decided to agree. Wait for Qingling to come back. Let him torture himself a little more. And what they don't know is, Qingling got up every day when he was ugly. It's not to add a spiritual task to yourself. He has mastered so many swordsmanship. This small body has to be thoroughly adapted. It will take some time. For now, in addition to the lack of internal forces, there is always some weakness in the supermarket. But if he practiced his sword in front of the children, I'm afraid that Huashan is going to mess up again. That's why he sneaks here at this time of the day. Falling flowers are windy, but today is clear. Only to find another figure. Elegant. The sword dances like a flower. Flying and dignified. Although still immature. But his move is to clear 0. Until now. See the swordsmanship with the former Huashan. The most similar sword intent. And yet he's still sexual. But I didn't know that there was already something easy to understand in the girl's eyes. I heard the cold light. The girl stared condescendingly at the teenager. Who you are, I don't seem to have ever seen you. And Qingming was discovered by the little girl. It's actually quite unhappy in my heart. Say that again. She should have asked. But by the moonlight. Qingming also took a closer look. The woman. It's really in the rivers and lakes that he has been wandering for nearly 100 years. A rare beauty. However, the chill came from the neck. This made him feel helpless. So he pointed to the plum blossom on his chest. You're blind. Didn't you see Huashan's uniform? It was learned that Qingling was a disciple of 3 generations. And leaving the mountain gate after sunset is still a privilege for the head of the house. He didn't believe anything. He said that it is taboo to snoop on other people's cultivation. Now that you see it, you should leave quickly. But what kind of person is Qingling? It doesn't matter if you're a pretty girl or a king. It's still going to be scared. First until yesterday. This is where I practice. Then at night, people I didn't know wandered around Huashan. Shouldn't I be sure? Just like that, the girl's brows furrowed. In a few words, he was bitten by his red lips. Unexpectedly cute. This made Qingming also surprised. It seems that this girl is not very good at arguing with people and pretending to be stupid. The girl calmed down a little. That's when I asked the boy's name. I heard that it was called Qingming. He was surprised. It turns out that Huashan's generation is a 5-character cycle. Qingming, Xinyan, White. And the 3 generations of disciples of this generation happen to belong to the green generation. His first reaction was, this little guy has already been given the name of the Tao as soon as he gets started. But he thought too much. It's just that the most surprising thing for Qingming is, the girl is a 2nd-generation white character disciple. Beat from him to Huashan. I didn't see the white character of him. He also thought it was Huashan's situation, resulting in skipping a quilt. But now suddenly a skeleton appeared. It made him feel as bad as eating. Fake a salute. That's when he was sent away. However, in the cafeteria in the early morning, the children sighed. This makes Qingming a little dreamy back to the white eyebrow pavilion. Then, after the lesson, they all looked like they were going to die. The elder brother said, because the uncles are coming back. They left Huashan for retreat. Choose penance. But Qingming still didn't understand. These people are jackals, tigers, and leopards. It can't eat people. Xiaojie told him. This means that the Chinese conference is about to begin. It is Huashan and Zhongnan. A jousting tournament is held every 2 years. Qingming seems to have heard of this somewhere, but I couldn't remember it for a while. Senior brother Yin's face was gloomy. He said it wasn't so much a joust. In fact, it was a one-sided beating. If you use the faces of the uncles this time, it should be black to the bottom of the pot. Qingming understands it. Other words, this is a competition between the second generation of disciples and the third generation of disciples. And then it was you who were beaten up all along. That's right. Senior brother Yin's face was even more embarrassed and nodded. In other words, the Central China Conference is just around the corner. And it's the Central and South faction that fights with us, right? Think back to 100 years ago. Zhongnan doesn't have the guts to hold any conference with us. It should be taking advantage of Huashan's weakening. That's when I got it out and rode on our heads to play. I learned about those uncles. It was only after losing last time that I went to retreat, so this time it will be a result. It's also hard to guarantee that you'll win. Ho Qingling stood up even more excitedly. He said, brothers, don't worry. I'll let you win, no matter what, as long as you can defeat those guys from the South Central faction. Huashan's reputation can spread, so do it all for me. Even if you die, you will not hesitate to become enlightened. At this time, the children did not know what they're about to face. And at this time, in the chamber, Yin didn't understand why the Central South Congress. Suddenly, it was held a whole half-year earlier. Xinsong was even more helpless. They're already in a weak position. They are to be harshly deceived by outsiders. It will only be said that we are cowardly in Huashan. That's a word for them old guys. It's nothing. I'm afraid that the children will mistakenly think it. None of us elders have faith in them. In case the children languish because of this, it's going to be worse than losing. But that being said, after Yin left, hanging bush looking at the plum blossoms outside the house, my heart is still as uncomfortable as a thorn. Maybe someday, he'll pierce deeper. Until I take my life. The head sighed with contempt. Bai Meiguan Xiaojie was curious. Can they really beat Zhongnan? But it's a pity. The answer was no. Immediately cleared the zero, compared their current strength. Probably so many young people are dissed like this. How can there be a service? Patted his chest and said he could feel himself several times stronger. But Qingming is not optimistic. The growth rate of the current 3 generations of disciples is indeed terrifying. But compared with the 3 generations of Huashan's former disciples, it's a big difference. Judging from the strength of the 9 factions in the past, among the 3 generations of disciples, it is also possible for Zhao Jie to win. Slightly weaker opponents. In the movie, you need to meet the weaker one. Fortunately, Xiaojie has no ambition. He was more desperate to know how to win. Qingming told them neither salty nor light. Be prepared to die within 15 days. I'm going to make you stronger. So this time Qingming shouted everyone earlier. The children were chattering. Until the appearance of the teenager. They fell silent. Eyes on Qingming. And this time he brought a wooden sword and a real sword. This scene really scared the group of children. The noise gradually sounded. Are all speculating about the training content of the devil's name this time. And Qingming couldn't see joy and anger at this time. He said that in order to make everyone get stronger quickly, we need to change our cultivation methods. But there's nothing special about it. Just give me one death. Because even if I die, I don't want to see you guys defeated by Zhongnan's guys. But I'll let you win. Looking at the clarity that seems to be a magic wand, Xiaojie also panicked. He said as long as he could win, no matter what kind of practice you practice, everyone will do it. But what does it mean to die once? It's so scary. Qingming glanced at Xiaojie. Let him come first. At this time, he also wanted to find a cushion. Only then did I realize that the love of the same family is so precious. So Xiaojie came to the devil spirit with a hard head. Qingling said that although this is a bit strange, but the brothers are strong now. The previous practice was not in vain. It's just that he tried to estimate in his heart. If Li Songbai belongs to the strong man of the second generation of disciples in Zhongnan, then their strength, it's about the same as it used to be. The current situation is not optimistic. Thereupon, Qingling began to teach him his apostate thoughts. You have built your body, though, but the swordsmanship is too weak. The evil sword is for victory, and for the sake of victory, you have to give me whatever it takes. Then he threw the wooden sword out. From now on, the two of us competed in martial arts. You can use any method, and I only use the move of swinging the sword. Xiaojie bowed his head. He knew that he couldn't win against Qingling at all. But if the other party only uses one move, then maybe you have a chance. In other words, you use a real sword to learn from Qingming. I don't think it's really going to be cut. I saw him look like you guess I can't cut it. Xiaojie only felt that her throat and eyes were hot. But he immediately stabilized his mind. So, is it time to start? This surprised Lime glanced at Zhao Jie's uncontrollable trembling. Lime smiled. Is it possible to win my self-confidence? And Xiaojie took the lead. I don't have the slightest emotion with this sword. Falling flower sword. No matter how you look at Lime, you can feel that this guy is full of emotions. I don't know where I offended him. However, Xiaojie had a scarlet 7-star step in his eyes. Then he heard the sound of a continuous step on the ground. He approached the Lime at great speed. Then another blow followed. Although the action of the falling flower sword is green, but the talent for fighting is excellent. If you only think about potential, not losing in the slightest. Li Songbai does have this qualification and self-confidence. But the battle of the two, the children were stunned, can be seen on the surface. Senior brother Zhao Jie seemed to be unilaterally suppressing the Lime. What's going on here? However, the film looks carefully. Although Zhao Jie is fierce, but he didn't meet Qingming at all. That's not a special way to do it. It's just a right step back. Medea dodged Zhao Jie's sword. Look at it from another angle. It's like a choreographed action by Qingming. Deliberately let Zhao Jie fall short. Can I understand it? Qingming knew everything about Zhao Jie's moves. How much can I understand that kid now? As Xiaojie pounced again, he also noticed that something was wrong. Every time he falls, there will always be a distance between Qingming, and only an inch away. He finally realized that he had little hope. The body trembled uncontrollably. Obviously, I've been working hard. That's why he feels like he's a lot stronger now. But why? The gap between him and Qingming is still like a moat. But it can't. With Xiao Jie's angry outburst, it sounded. It was found in the shadow almost at the same time. He had already cultivated his sword chi. Xiao Jie ejected almost instantly. Another sword against Qingling. The impact of wielding the sword aura. The original floor tiles made a deep ravine. There is also a huge pothole in the wall of the No. 5 salt factory. But it's a pity that he still hasn't met Qingming. Look up. The other party was staring at him with the eyes of a dead man. Senior brother is over. With a roar, Xiao Jie's eyes were almost completely occupied by the long sword. Just at the edge of the sword was his forehead. When the distance is less than 1 finger, only then did they stop, and suddenly the children present were silent. Wait until Xiao Jie reacts. Then he sat down on the ground. He really felt like he was going to die. Now I couldn't feel the heat of the battle at all. Only a cold feeling permeated his trembling body. But Qingling was satisfied. Not everyone has the chance to die once. Then the devil turned to look at the rest. Shout next, but see it with your own eyes. How can there be children rushing to deliver it? Qingming doesn't mind either. Brothers, think about it. You can really hide from it. Why don't you come? Then I'll be gone. Yubi Qingming was inexplicably excited. Rushed to this group of children who had nothing to do. Tonight the moon wants to come. For 3 generations of disciples. It should be a night to remember. Wait until he beats everyone up. That's what explains. I have already told you. I'll swing my sword downward. But such an obvious attack. But you can't hide from it. You know why? Xiaojie only feels from the body to the IQ. All were insulted. He said of course it was because it was too fast. It's so fast that there's no time to think. 3-year-olds know why. Now that the senior brothers know. But why don't you do anything? The sword that fell on his head. It is completely different from the sword that others observe. You just have to get your body out. Anyone can wield the sword I just had. Solid and solid lower plate. Then transfer the power to the hands. Merge with internal forces. That's what it means to swing a sword. Zhao Jie has not yet come out of the shock just now. Yin Zhong was the first to speak. It's compared to pursuing gorgeous but unfamiliar swordsmanship. It's better to swing the sword with the body that has been trained. Right? Qing Ling looked sideways. He added that he also needed the determination to kill with one hit. Each and every one of you all need to have the consciousness not to swing the second sword again. If you can't kill with one hit, you'll die. Now the elder brother finally understands. Why did Qing Ling let the fire die once? Not for personal experience. The feeling of Qing Ling's sword falling on his head. I'm afraid most people can't understand it. What is a one-hit kill? But it's a clear spirit. We are Huashan disciples. Even if it's a joust. Shouldn't we use Huashan's swordsmanship? Defeat the opponent. What is the first form of the senior brother Liuhe's sword? Isn't Liuhe Huashan's swordsmanship? He is not only the basic swordsmanship of Huashan. It is also the cornerstone of Huashan. All of our swordsmanship in Huashan begins with Liuhe. He is also loyal to Liuhe. But a guy who can't even use this set of swordsmanship actually began to learn the sword of the fallen flower in vain. 7-star steps, you remember it for me. If you can't use the Liuhe sword proficiently, even if you learn other sword techniques, it's useless. It's like a building. If you don't even have a solid foundation, a little wind can blow him down. So everybody go get me a wooden sword. Practice 10,000 downward swings. Listen to it all. There is nothing that is glorious despite defeat. I want you. I must be given victory by any means necessary. Half a day. Qing Ming, who had arranged his homework, came to Luo Hua Peak again. To be honest, I'm pretty tired, especially when I think back to the past. My juniors and disciples are worried that my swordsmanship will be broken. So I found the senior brother in charge and told me to accept apprentices. But what did senior brother Stinky say? He couldn't bear to hand over his disciple to me. Say, I firmly believe that talent comes from under the stick. But it's an individual. You can't do anything that violent. The most critical thing is that bastard brother. Again in front of me. It's very upset to think about it. I don't know why I want to be reborn. If only I had died. I don't need riches and glory. I don't want to go down in history. But if I wanted to build one, I didn't have it. It can also pass on the spirit of Huashan. Although I have known for a long time that this will not be easy. But then again, the woman probably won't come back. No matter how obsessed you are with cultivation. It won't be ugly when you go up the mountain. Then he saw Lime draw his sword. The tiredness in his eyes was swept away. Now he has to get stronger as soon as possible. It's not about getting your old self back. It's clear that the past self is far from strong enough. If it weren't for the siege of a gang of masters from the 9 factions, drained the guy's stamina. I'm definitely no match for that guy. Although everyone said that I was the best in the world. But actually, I'm just one. A loser who can't defeat the heavenly demon alone. As long as I'm strong enough. That's not going to happen, and no one dares to guarantee it. It will no longer be the same as the heavenly demons. Even a guy stronger than him. It is necessary to keep Huashan in the midst of so many dangers. I have to be stronger than anyone else in this world. Even stronger than the heavenly demon. The appearance of that guy shattered everything I once believed in. As if to laugh at us. These are firmly believed. Just follow the path blazed by the saints. The one who can get it. I had to push what I thought was the limit. However, what Qingming didn't know was the appearance of self-cultivation is still the ant named Lu Yixue. Take a look at it clearly. It can be seen that the boy is very anxious. I hope I can learn something. But this matter is still far away for him now. Slowly open your eyes. I saw this Lu Shirgu at a glance. It scared Qingling so far away. He couldn't figure it out. How can this woman be like a ghost? I was able to avoid my own gaze. Even come to yourself. Obviously, it doesn't look strong. The presence is extremely low. It's like having practiced the art of assassination. But now the question is, how much did the woman see? And Lu Yixue doesn't seem to know how to speak. Blurted out the word plum blossom. This made Lime instantly feel her head countless times bigger. I was going to pretend that nothing happened. This scene made the girl think that he was going to kill people. Nervous look, so that the Lime does not know. What should I do next? Thinking about it for a long time was fruitless. Now, there's only one way. So he put away his sword, clenched hands into fists. If I am lonely, then I will say goodbye first. Don't wait for the girl to stay. Qingling leaped backwards sharply. In this way, he maintained a respectful appearance. Disappeared in Lu Yixue's sight. The wild left a young girl who muttered plum blossoms in her mouth, annoyed while running. Fortunately, there was only one witness this time. As long as you kill yourself, you won't admit it. No one should take it seriously. It seems that in the future, the white characters will come back. Be more careful. Wait until they come back. I seem to have forgotten something very important. Huashan County in the early morning. Busy. It's been a busy day for a long time. The figure of a teenager is sitting at a table, holding the cup and making a sizzling sound. The wine he had saved for 100 years could not be wasted, since the privilege given by the head. Naturally, you have to use it flexibly. It's just that the wine is still the wine of 100 years ago, but the taste has changed. The boy sighed. It's better to hide from my brother and steal my mouth. Thinking of Qingming, he laughed at himself again. Someone who hasn't thought about it in his life. What's the use of thinking about it now? Where the senior brother is staying now. I guess there aren't any of these things. The boy was drinking. Outside the courtyard, a group of people in black clothes walked in. It looks like it's just the year it was established. There's also a plum blossom pattern on the chest. I think it's unlucky to meet someone who is white. Qingming didn't want to have anything to do with them. It's better to drink it and leave quickly. But they beckon Xiao to come with a few good dishes. Serve it with a pot of wine. It still makes Qingming feel a little uncomfortable. No to drink, but he has become something that only the head of the family dares to touch. If you are still a second-generation disciple, blatantly do this in Huashan County. Inevitably, he will be locked up in the Siguia for half a month. Children now. However, there is a heart. Qingming also found. The men they made were so handsome. Even a man thinks this kid is very handsome. How to say it? It's like the big swordsman who walked out of the story. But then you listen to what the other person has to say. Facing the China Congress. He is confident enough to compete with the Central and South factions. As long as they keep improving. It may not be impossible to surpass the Central and Southern factions. Overlooking the world. Poof! Qingming really couldn't hold back. I found myself out of shape. That's just a fake statement. Is there a bug in the meal? But it's clear. Their elder brother didn't believe it. And it seems that this man is a bit more serious. He took the initiative to say, "Who is the little brother?" I don't think I've ever seen you in Huashan County. I don't know if I could tell the name of the little brother's house. He glanced at the food on the Qingming table. Each dish is not cheap. The whole of Huashan County. As he remembers, there is no such person among the young masters of the rich people. The boy didn't want to have anything to do with him. Strongly said that he should not pay attention to himself. But he didn't give up. Pick up your own chair. Slowly came to Qingming. It looks very kind. He said that he was a second-generation disciple of Huashan. During the day, I hope to get acquainted with the boys. Look at Qingming again. The disgust in his eyes is about to pop out of the water. He didn't understand why this guy was so persistent. And you can't beat him. It's a big hassle. In desperation, Qingming had no choice but to hug the pipa and half cover his face. It's embarrassing to say that I'm still okay. I took my leave first. However, daytime doesn't seem silly. It was obvious that he was not going to let Qingming leave like this, but turn the head of the below wrestler. But he was avoided by the boy without looking at it. In this scene, in the eyes of the juniors and disciples on the side, it seems that the senior brother has already caught the boy, but he let him go inexplicably. Men are good. I had to pretend to say it. I don't think I should bully children. On the way back, Qingling was still complaining about drinking too quickly. It's a pity that there is a good table of dishes. But what I said that day was ridiculous. A group of guys who are not even as good as Zhao Jie. It is also able to speak with majesty. Also grappler. This blows more than their own. It was even older when I met 3 generations of disciples at one time. But then again, the 3 generations of disciples have only just begun to learn martial arts. But the second-generation disciples have long passed the stage of laying the foundation. It's a time of rapid growth. I don't know if it will go on like this. When will they be made into manufacturable materials? Holding on to this unhappiness, Qingling returned to the bedroom and began to fall asleep. Xiaojie ran to call him, only to find that the house was full of alcohol. I tried to shake him, only to find that he couldn't wake up. So Xiaojie's eyes froze. Scolded bastard. Got up and immediately pretended not to be himself. It's a good thing this guy couldn't hear clearly. So he immediately changed the topic and said that the uncles were back. Let's go to the martial arts arena and assemble. And the smell of alcohol on your body is too great. But that's not the end of the story. I saw the lime pinching her nose and making a long flutter. Zhao Jie was surprised to find, both in the house and on the lime, the original smell of alcohol is gone. While looking at it, Lime changed his robe. He said, "Senior brother, it's a pure place. Don't talk nonsense about the smell of alcohol." Brought the two to the martial arts arena. Lime still finds it funny. It's just tearing a few bigodan teeth. It gave me the illusion that I was doing penance. As soon as I came back, I felt that I had worked hard. Wine and cow blowing. I still feel good about myself. The doors gradually opened. The head of the house also greeted him personally. 3 generations of disciples have been fascinated by them for a long time. They unconsciously applauded their perseverance. And Qingming is looking at this daytime. Sure enough, this kid is really handsome. But why do I think I'm more handsome? I just feel that senior brother should question himself. Where is the conscience? Something seems to have been exposed. It's a coincidence. Qingming was also found during the day. I don't know if it's an illusion. He sent the gods back. Standing in front of Qingling, raised with a thud, his arm covered half of the boy's face. Now it's good to see the daytime grinning. Maybe we don't know each other. Little brother, but such a persistent person. It is also rare for Qingling. I don't know what this guy wants to do, though. Or beat him up. Again, suppose you are bullied by elders in the prime of life. Then you, and I may have to endure it most of the time. Especially in the taoist Huashan, which pays attention to the tradition of etiquette. It's a generation and a ravine. Problems arise. It's just because this generation of Huashan is too special. In the early years, in order to repay the debts of Huashan County, they chose the early, opened the enrollment ceremony for a new generation of disciples. This also led to the youngest of the second generation of disciples, similar in age to the eldest of the 3 generations of disciples. And it turned out, the 2 generations of disciples unconsciously paid attention to each other. And the second generation of disciples, senior brothers, during the day, is already known as the first genius in Huashan. That's it. Qing Ming used to have it, but soon became the first little devil in Huashan. But it's a false name. In his opinion, it should also belong to Zhao Jie. Don't say that. During the day, Uncle Sure is a character I will never be able to reach. Qing Ming smashes the snake. Yesterday, you wanted to beat me. That's all for today. It's not easy. Glancing over. Only then did the young man understand why the other party lived so seriously. The flower of the flock. Let him stand beside this peer who is full of weak chickens. It's a very unnatural thing to do. And because of this, caused him to have a defect that he couldn't even detect. It makes sense just now that I came to recognize it. The mind is thinking. A young girl walked briskly to the group. It was natural to stand at the lead next to the daytime. It's also a white word for this guy. What's called Lu? He probably hasn't told me anything about me yet. Xiaojie suddenly called Qing Ming. I've seen the world and smiled, I understand. My aunt is the first beauty in Shangxi. The first time I saw it, I definitely couldn't take my eyes off it. But don't dream, you kid. Aunt Lu has long been obsessed with daytime poetry and books. Look at Qing Ming and senior brother Ian again. I just think that the smell of this kid's words is too heavy. It's completely ignoring him. For a while, a Huashan #1 wizard. For a while, the first beauty in Shangxi. I don't know, I think Huashan can represent Shangxi. You have the leisure to swing your sword one more time. Maybe you'll be famous all over the world. With the lead during the day, the second-generation disciples have visited the master. Xian Song understood that it was not easy for them to cultivate. So after a few words of greeting, he asked the junior brother to arrange a banquet. The lord of the lottery pavilion was reluctant, but there was no objection to the boss's arrangement. Just muttered unabashedly as he left. Senior brother is big-hearted. Xian Song is also helpless. After the incident with the Galactic Merchant Group, this junior brother always said some strange things. It's all right. So he arranged for Yin Yin and his disciples to drink first. Called Qing Ming alone. He said he had something to talk to him about. It was normal, but sensitive daytime. Soon caught the grapefruit in the boy's mouth. Prick up your ears and listen. The head of the house is actually coaxing children to say, I've got sweets for you. Aren't you coming? Looking at the back of Qing Ming and the head. During the day, he still couldn't help but ask Uncle Yun Jian, what the hell is going on with that child? However, Yun Jian was still careless. Ben was kind enough to persuade him that it was best to leave Qing Ming alone. It's good for their physical and mental health. But it sounds like it is during the day. The taste is completely changed. Sunset over the West Mountains. Looking at the table full of meat in the cafeteria. I couldn't believe my eyes during the day. The sharp-eyed junior brother on the side did not forget to joke. Look at those 3 generations of disciples. Eating meat is greasy. Think of them not there. This year, the sect has undergone a lot of changes. Obviously, the juniors didn't mind this disobedience. But the strangeness in my heart during the day. He couldn't keep his mouth shut. In his memory, Huashan can almost be poorer than beggars. Even the beggars just don't seem to have any money. But what's going on here? Yun Jian also saw the strangeness of the day at this time. I learned that this child was confused because of the change in the sect. This is just a sudden occurrence. But it's a long story. We have a lucky star in Huashan. You'll find out later. The more I listen to it during the day, the more confused I become. But at this time, the door of the cafeteria was suddenly kicked open. Everyone was looking to catch up. The guy who made such a big fuss. I saw a boy walking in a hurry. It was as if someone owed him millions. Without saying a word, he came to the dining table and sat down. Senior brother Ian spoke very naturally. Why is it so angry again? I learned that the boss asked him to run the Galaxy Business Group again. That's when they suddenly realized. Run 4 or 5 times a week, although it is only a branch in Huashan County. But being like a carrier pigeon is always unacceptable. However, at this time of the day, he stared at Qingnu. His brothers found that no one blamed him at all. Even Uncle Yunji, who usually pays the most attention to etiquette, also silent. It's as if it's all taken for granted. It would be in his head. Has already made up a series of large-scale seizures of power. Look closely. The kid even sits. It was originally a position in the shadow of their elder brother. This means that this kid is not only famous, he also holds real power. During the day, his brow was furrowed like a rattle. He hadn't realized he was completely trapped. I don't know what kind of means you used, but you control 3 generations of disciples. That's a fact. It seems that it is necessary to find a day to bump into you. The younger brother found out. He barely moved his chopsticks. I asked curiously. Only then did he react during the day. Just ready for dinner. I remembered that I didn't know where senior sister Lu had gone. Mention him as a junior sister. That's a lot better than being there in person. The kid made him care. I'm afraid he'll miss dinner. I'm going to look for it. And the juniors and disciples are also helpless. Whenever you encounter senior sister Lu, he became very reckless. Maybe it's one thing down one thing. However, at this time, another person walked into the cafeteria. Daytime is inherently highly sensitive. Someone was spotted immediately. It is the junior sister Lu Yixue, who is in her heart, but faces greetings. Lu Yixue turned a deaf ear. Look at yourself. As if looking for something. The most engaging daytime was stunned again. I saw him go straight to the table of the 3 generations of disciples. May I sit next to you, please? This goddess of coldness. The first time I took the initiative to talk to a boy, it is comparable to a large-scale melon-eating scene. It's just that Qingming doesn't care about this. He didn't want to have anything to do with this man. Turning his head and making it clear that no. Lu Yixue was anxious. Let's go out and talk. Qingling waved his hand even more. No. I don't want to talk to you. Xiaojie is crazy. What the hell is going on? Hit Yamazaki. I have never seen Aunt Lu take the initiative to talk to anyone. Now he is running to haunt the devil's name. But can this kid pay attention to his tone when he speaks? And Lu Yixue didn't want to give up. He said it would really only take a while. I have something to say to you. The mind is also numb. I said no. I have nothing to say to my aunt. Can't you understand people? He looked at the boy. There's really no good way to do it in my heart. So he sat down next to him with his face on his face. It means that I am here for you. Not really. I'll talk about it when you're done. It's a matter that no one can refuse. Qingming only felt that his head was big. The meat on the table is no longer fragrant. The 2nd generation disciples approached one after another, waiting to eat melons. Suddenly, a crisp cough rang out. The crowd turned their heads to look. During the day, senior brother would no longer be able to see any emotion. I saw him get up slowly, turning his head to look at the boy. He said, I remember your name is Qingming. Yes, I heard that you gave the head of the house. He often travels between Huashan and Xi'an. It's hard work, and I understand. He closed his eyes. Force yourself to calm the knot in your chest. But my aunt has already begged you like that. Even if you're tired. As a junior, you should also go out and talk to him. Look at what he said. During the day, I feel that there is no leakage. However, Qingming didn't eat this set. Put on a nosy look. Ask me why I have to do that. Fried during the day. He was trembling with anger. But he still has to forcibly smile with the calm smile of the senior brother. He said with an uncomfortable face, because as a disciple of the Daomen, know the rules, especially between the elders and the juniors. Even more so, Qingling Yeren. I see. That's my aunt. Apologize. Uncle sure said you don't understand the rules. Lu Yixue was also stunned, stared blankly at the boy. This is He Yin, who welcomes the return of the 2nd generation of disciples. You're talking about personal matters here. The girl was stunned, immediately bowed to the day and apologized. Said that the junior sister was not thoughtful. Sighed. Qingling also did not forget to remind you that you should apologize to your uncle. After all, you made a mistake in front of your uncle and ancestor. Thereupon, confused, he bowed to Uncle Yunjian again, and Yunjian smiled very naturally. Scolding the girl is too outward. Let him sit down and eat quickly. But this one is a fuss. During the day, I was so angry that I was about to have a heart attack. Yin Zhong and Xiaojie also found out that something was wrong. Scold the bastard. Why do you always make such a big fuss? But the bottom of my heart is scolding. The two of them were still worried about Qingling. Hurriedly got up to play the round. After a long day, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Your name is Qingling? Wrong. Xiaojie looked at the devil's name. Cold sweat pinched my throat and eyes. He really hoped that this kid would be able to behave like that once. However, Qingling returned. It seems that Ning has indeed worked too hard to travel abroad, asking the same question over and over again. If you're tired, go back to rest. I didn't want to pay attention to the teenager's provocation during the day. He said, I'll just ask you a question. Did we see it this morning? And Lime sneered. I said it was the first time I'd seen you. Did you grow up tricked? Daytime at this time? I have long lost my will in my eyes. Although it is not good to know that it is not good. But if you can't, hit this kid's arrogance. The teacher and the disciple have important things to report. As far as the disciples know, 3 generations of disciples, if there are no special instructions. It is not allowed to leave Huashan. However, the disciple saw a 3rd-generation disciple this morning, dressed in private clothes, appeared in Huayin County, and that person is this disciple. Hear this. Yunjian just frowned. Confirm that the person you see during the day is Qingling Hao. But a sentence popped out of his mouth. Confused again during the day, he suddenly began to doubt. Is there something wrong with your ears? Uncle Yunjian, who is already very strict. Not only did I not mean to blame just now, it didn't hurt to say anything. It seemed to see his doubts. Yunjian added that the disciple did not have the permission of the master. You can also enter and exit the mountain gate freely. This privilege is given by the master. Do you have an opinion? The CPU was burned for a while. I heard another smack. I don't know if it's intentional or not. The fragrance that Qingming ate is so fragrant. The whole cafeteria could be heard. Grit your teeth during the day. A sense of powerlessness grew from the bottom of his heart. It just so happened that another person walked in. It is the master of the financial cabinet. Come and inspect the dinner you have arranged. Although the day is depressing, then I felt a horizontal in my heart. This will only lead him to one way to the dark. And I saw that he was great. Step forward, clenched your fists, and respectfully greeted the elders. And the financial pavilion master doesn't seem to care. Wave his hand. Let them eat and drink well. By the way, he told the cloud arrow, let him take care of his disciples. Don't play too crazy. However, during the day he spoke again. He said, Elder, the disciple has something important to report to you. This morning, I saw 3 generations of disciples in Huashan, drinking in a restaurant in Huayin County. Hear this. The finance pavilion master was also furious. You said that 3 generations of disciples drank alcohol. Tell me which one you're seeing. Seeing seems to work. Only then did he smile, slightly embarrassed during the day. The disciple will never be mistaken. It's the disciple sitting there and chirping, clear and bright. And they looked at each other like this, old and young. During the day, there was no abnormality in the elders. Still talking to himself. But the master of the financial pavilion was already impatiently speaking at this time. Interrupted him. It's Qingming, so what? Are you the ones who set the rules of Huashan? According to you, does Huashan have a rule that disciples are not allowed to go down the mountain to drink? And what does it matter if you have a little wine? You guys, a guy who can't even earn his own food money back, with his money to feed you. There is still a face to sue him. Are you worthy of being called Uncle Sure? Believe it or not, I'm going to blow your head right now. The more he talked, the more excited he became. The anger on his face became more and more obvious. Said almost in a roaring tone, "The money you pay for meat is earned by your nephews. What's wrong with him saving a little bit of his own to drink? A bunch of bastards. Don't even eat. What qualifications do you have to eat meat?" Seeing that the junior brother is crazy again, Xianshang was glad that he had arrived in time. I dragged him out. It's only now quiet here. Eat deflated again and again. During the day, he finally came to his senses. But what the hell is going on with this kid? After a while, everyone returned to the dormitory. The day is full of early years. The teacup of the waterline. The junior brother on the side was indignant. Whether it is an elder or an uncle. Even senior sister Lu. They all seem to be too partial to that kid. It's not that he wants to cause trouble. I just feel that it has been hard for 1 year. Not only was he not warmly received when he returned, even the love of the elders. It's also a guy who came out of nowhere. Snatched away. Put down the teapot during the day. He kept his head down. There are no previous waves in his eyes. He said that we have long passed the stage of being loved by our elders. You should know what I mean. None of this is the point. The crux of the matter is, I always feel it. The dominance of Huashan has fallen into the hands of that guy. Huashan in the past. It's like this teacup with a corner missing. Artifact architecture. It's all old-fashioned, but it's charming. And he was during the day. It is the only hope for this old sect. But just 1 year has passed. This can't even be described as a vicissitudes of life. Now look back. At the beginning, it was really full of poor sourness. It's just that Huashan is still my sect. The one that everyone is looking forward to. It has to be me. Put down the teacup during the day. He said we need to calm down first. Now it's what to do. It is to first understand the days when we are not there. What the hell is going on in Huashan? In this way, the second generation of disciples is in the martial arts hall. An uninvited guest arrived. Daytime motioned for him to come in. The person who came to open the door immediately hugged his fist. Disciple In Zhong sees. The two uncles beckoned him to sit down during the day, even filled a cup of tea for him with his own hands. In this scene, it just made In Zhong look more nervous. He looked at the boy with deep eyes. I hope that the other party can explain the Qingming matter clearly. In Zhong lowered his head. Long before coming here, he was already restless. Mention it to Qingming. I really let him know what to say, although this is the easiest way to do it. But it feels like being a traitor. This makes In Zhong. There's always something uneasy in my heart. It's just that he has no idea right now. Take a deep breath. First of all, this thing. It's going to start with the first time Qingming entered Huashan. The two who pretended to be stupid had already heard it with dry mouths. Not only did he discover the martial arts treasures of the master, missing ledgers were also found. Recycle the industry for Huashan. Even Lord Huang of the Galactic Merchant Group was cured. Cause them to raise the power of the entire merchant group. Support Huashan finance. Silence during the day. Motion for In Zhong to go back first. He understood what Qingming had done. It can no longer be described as meritorious. I finally understood. Why did the elders of the sect love that kid so much? However, during the day, I was still unwilling. Purse your lips. And so on. Sooner or later, the personal generation will climb on our heads. Until then, Bai Shang suddenly said, let's talk about it from another angle. Huashan is a martial arts sect. If it weren't for the legacy demonstrations, how can you give preferential treatment to one? What about children who can only earn money? Here this day, interrupt immediately, don't talk nonsense. You're asking your uncle and your ancestors. The two were silent for a long time. But what you say is not entirely unreasonable. The China conference is about to be held. Elders will also have no time to care about the children of the word clearing. Bai Shang heard this. Seems to have convulsions. Meaning, in order to prevent the 3 generations of disciples from coming. As elders, we can't just focus on our own cultivation. Senior brother, shouldn't you personally instruct them in martial arts? Finally exhaled a cloudy breath during the day. Brother, you really pay more attention to Huashan than anyone else. I really hope that kid is clear. He is also accomplished in martial arts. Otherwise, that kid's life will be very difficult. After a while, Zhong resolutely returned to the white eyebrow pavilion. Looking at the sleeping Qingming, he really felt like he was messing around. And Xiaojie is still picking stones. He asked where his brother was. What's going on? Zhong's legs also weakened when he heard this. Slumped on the bed, he spread his hands. I can only tell the truth. And even if there is something to hide, you'll always know about it in the future. Look at Qingming again. Neither of them knew. What the hell is wrong with this guy? Xiaojie also sighed. It seems that we have become a thorn in the side of the elder brother. Immediately, the two of them were in Qingming's room. Sighed for a while. In the end, it was reminded in the movie. Let's get everyone together. Let everyone be cautious in their words and deeds in the future. And Xiaojie also felt that there would be no better way. But before leaving, he asked about his senior brother in turn. Do you think that if Uncle Shi and Qingming are on the right side during the day, who's going to win that picture? Zhong is a little fried just thinking about it. Say less useless. Go and call someone. That's it. The elder brother of the 3 generations of disciples looked at Qingming again. What a troublemaker. It seems that the peace of Huashan has also come to an end. Early the next morning, Yun Jian told Xian Song about last night's incident. They all know in their hearts what the crux of the problem is. But neither of them seems to have a good solution. To say that it is still a big heart. He said he couldn't. Let's just trust them. The kid didn't do anything drastic during the day. It's just that Qingming's kid Yun Jian is really not at ease. Take a sip of tea and suppress the shock. He always felt that the mountains were going to be chaotic. Sunshine, 3 poles. Qingming, as always, tortured the senior brothers to the point of blood. But unfortunately, the 2nd generation disciples suddenly came to the white eyebrows pavilion. I can't help but reproach them for being lazy. For the sake of small provinces and big precepts, today's cultivation is over. They had to clean up all parts of the sect. After saying that, he strode out of the yard. This ostentatious presence is to see it clearly. But the children were generally tortured to the point of fainting. I didn't pay attention at all. Something just came and went. Xiaojie looked at the unusually uncles. I can guess what the situation is with my ass. Find yourself being stared at. Zeroing out is completely free of psychological burden. However, the targeting of the 2nd generation of disciples has only just begun. They don't just ask the children to walk side by side. Permission to drink saliva must be obtained. Whether it's eating or bathing. Even sleeping had to be carried with a sword. A series of torments down. Even Xiaojie felt that he had seen them wrong. I didn't expect the uncle's hearts to be so small. He couldn't stand it anymore. So I asked the senior brother in the movie, shouldn't we do something about it? However, Zhong only sighed lightly. He glanced at Qingling. The problem was thrown to the initiator. The boy opened his eyes in a daze. What the bunch wants. Qingling knows. Zhong also felt that the dragon would not suppress the head snake. I hope Qingling can bow his head and admit that he made a mistake. But seeing the coldness in the other party's eyes, immediately changed his words and explained. It's just that Qingling doesn't blame him. He said, senior brother, except for that method, I have a better idea. And make sure to solve all problems once and for all. I'm going to beat them all up. Surely it will be fine. I'm sick. Everybody catches. Get him. The sudden situation frightened the children. Everybody knows. If only Qingling really went. They're done. However, his body, where was it caught by a few children? Once shaken off, no one can catch up with him anymore. Thanks to Qing Lingzhu's bedroom, it was in the deepest part. There is also an endless stream of children who raid from the side. But this still didn't touch the corner of the boy. Fortunately, there were still people in front of the gate. They desperately hugged Lime's arm. Now is the time. In an instant, all the senior brothers of the White Eyebrow Pavilion rushed up. Zhao Jia was even more desperate at this time. The ground pounced on the Lime. This happened a few months ago. They can't do that. I heard Qingming shouting to let me go. The bastards. Doing something that people didn't bother to do 100 years ago. I only punched them once. The hell I put it up? Xiaojia desperately pressed Qingming. He said that if you beat your uncle, he will definitely be expelled from the division. Yin Zhong even added that the China conference will start soon. What if they're beaten by you and can't play? Qingming will still have a temper. He said I didn't let them get hurt. It's my stunt. None of you is clear. That won't work either. Do you think Uncle Sure was beaten by his nephew? And a little bit of confidence. Let's put up with it. At least bullied by them. It's better than losing to the guys in Zhongnan. Please, Qingming, I can't see the joy and anger clearly for a while. But he still agreed to the elder brother's proposal. Xiaojie glanced at the shadow and got a signal. Only then did the boy let go. Qingming reconfirmed. As long as you endure until the end of the Central China Conference. Only then did he sit up slowly. For the sake of the elder brother's face. This time I put up with it. But what if they provoke me? Yun Zhang knew about the situation. He couldn't be persuaded either. I had to say that in case this really happened, then I really can't take care of it. Only then did I hear Qing Ling chuckle. Very well, that's what you said. Following. During the day, he and Bai Shang found that the white eyebrow tube seemed to be moving. These few days of suppression, not only did they not make any moves, not even words that might cause problems. This made Qing Ling a little higher in the daytime. Knowing how to forbear is a rare trait. And Bai Shang also thinks the focus should be on the Chinese Congress. But it's a pity that he is a very obsessed person during the day, since there is no time to bend around, and the 3 generations of disciples are still simple in nature. Kid So, he simply looked for an opportunity. Directly deal with the worst one. Hope for such a stick education. One day, he will understand himself. It's just that it's more painful now. Ugly white eyebrow pavilion. Qingming quietly opened the door. Seems to be very nervous. Tiptoe out of the yard. I don't know why. In order to hide from a stinky child. It takes so much effort. Qingming walked. But there are many thoughts in my heart. Although I really want to flip the table. But what it looks like at that time in the movie. Let me see the shadow of the senior brother in charge. No matter how you look at them, their expressions are becoming more and more similar. It made me feel a little guilty. I'd love to wear those white asses. But I want to kill those guys from Central and South China even more. That's it. Qing Ling picked up the long sword. Pull out a little. Suddenly, another agitation. He was really scared. The elusive woman. It's like water quality. Follow me all day and night. But I'm left alone. He'll just show up out of nowhere. Said they wanted to talk to me or something. The strangest thing is his tracks. I couldn't capture it all. For more than 80 years. I've never met a ghost. A faint call. In exchange for a wail that surrounded the entire valley. Qing Ling clearly felt. My heart was frightened and hurt by this woman. I was about to scold 2 sentences to relieve my anger. Lu Yixue stared with his calm eyes. Young man, I am your aunt. You are my nephew. So be polite to your aunt. Qing Ling only felt that his scalp was numb. Why do you always follow me? Seeing Lu Yixue frowning, he had no choice but to change his name to Lin. If the senior brother in charge saw this scene, I'm afraid I'm going to be laughed out of my big teeth. It's really impermanent. A soft sigh. Qingming was very helpless. It's good to have nearly 100 years of experience. But he couldn't see through this man's thoughts. But he seemed to care about it making the plum blossoms bloom. As swordsmanship, even if the other party has been pretending to be crazy and stupid. He didn't mind either. He's serious. Say you want to learn. Qing Ming heard this. There was also a bit of a trance. It turns out that this Lu medicine, I followed myself only for the sake of this. He didn't seem to have any intention of going back to the roots. It's as if he knows what it is. But Qing Ming did not dare to be careless. Still adheres to the appearance of not admitting it to death. He said I'd tell my uncles about it, even tell the master. But Qing Ming is really not afraid. After all, based on his one-sided words. And a few more will believe. A little kid who has been in Huashan for half a year. You can use the swordsmanship that makes plum blossoms bloom. Besides, you're an orphan. I am remiss in my duty. Shouldn't you teach me swordsmanship? The girl really can't talk about it. Nervously clenched his sword. He said it didn't matter. There is a saying called shameless questioning. Qing Ling is really numb. I'm scolding myself for that. But the girl then said I couldn't be mistaken. Because I've seen it before. The weight of these words is heavy. The girl knows. Qing Ling understands even more. A swordsmanship that can make plum blossoms bloom. Huashan has been passed down from generation to generation. All in the form of mantras. All the Huashan elders that day. They all died on the top of 100,000 mountains. But except for me. He even saw it. In other words, what is the relationship between you and Zhongnan? This is a one-sided battle between fellow disciples. The girl has a cold temperament, but he showed a special dedication to the teenager. It's the ugly moment of midnight. He didn't forget to keep watch over the other party's whereabouts. Follow all the way, until the back mountain woods, however obtained, but it came from Qing Ling's cold eyes, and the unsheathed sword in his hand. To know, the plum blossoms that bloom in Huashan have been lost for 100 years. The girl has seen it. It's hard not to think of the name that once came from the original book. In fact, they are bandits who steal the inheritance of the sect. The Central South faction, Qing Ling died, staring at the girl who was at a loss. In my heart, I measure how true and how false the other party is. Thought-provoking. Half a day. The degree of confusion of this girl seems unlikely. The performance was flawless. Breathe a sigh of relief. It involves the 1,000-year-old inheritance of Huashan. Lime still doesn't dare to take it lightly. However, under inquiry, Lu Yixue had a complicated expression. He said it was a long, long time ago. I've seen this set of swordsmanship myself, but it can't be said. It seemed that his face was becoming more and more miserable. Looking at the lime, his eyes were resentful but firm. He said to teach me, and Lime didn't figure it out before. Of course, it will not be easy to let go. It's just that. The girl's strange appearance was keenly captured. Did he give up? There may be a sudden bleeding. Draw your sword. Then there is no way. You're right. I'm my aunt. You are a nephew. I really should teach you something. Looking at the girl, whose momentum has risen sharply. Qing Ling only felt that this was a crazy criticism. No wonder he is not familiar with the disciples of the white character generation. He's not normal. It's full. The girl's eyes froze. I'm here to come to your sister. I saw him staring down at the boy. The left-hand sword is drawn back. The original spike instantly turned into a meta slash. Sure enough, this woman's swordsmanship is very sharp. But this is a killer move. He really wanted to cut me. Which aunt would use a real sword to cut her nephew? Hear this. Bloodshed, but the eyes became more and more solemn. Because you're better than me. You buy. And with his already light body, he hurried back. Qing Ming hid as much as he could. But the more I look at it, the more frightened I become. Because from the maiden's sword, he could read Huashan's deep sword intent. Looks like Lime, but there is a secret killing move. Don't talk about the green characters. I can't even see it in the sword of the Yunzi generation. This is the closest sword path to the origin of Huashan. There are flaws. The bleeding sword almost touched Lime's ear. If you don't get out of the way, Lime leaps backwards. I couldn't help but scold my mother. Crazy criticism I just wanted. I died before I dodged it. There's no way you can't hide from it. The teenager didn't know either. Where did this girl's confidence in herself come from? But since he does have nothing to do with Zhongnan, it's not that you can't boot it. The girl landed with a sword. The eyes were even more cold. Lime saw that it was another trick. Hurriedly retreated. Don't use a killer move. You crazy woman. However, Lu Yixue attacked sharply. The side effects are obvious. He also noticed the girl's abnormality. The other party's eyes were glazed. It seems that the spirit has been immersed in the sword moves. The physical fitness of the second-generation disciples is too poor. Plus, wielding killer moves to your heart's content made him quickly enter the limit of self-forgetfulness. The benefit is the opportunity to comprehend your own advice. But the downside is that if you're not careful, you'll go crazy. That's when I met. If you were someone else, you'd have long since left. The angle of this move should be increased a little more. Like this. With Qingming's seemingly blocked movements. Lulixu's sword wind has shifted slightly. And the girl looks cute. But the perception is good. Just a moment. It was as if he had entered a state of epiphany. Look at it. This Aunt Lu's talent in using swords should have a fight with Zhao Jie. The girl looked sideways at Qingming. He also found himself completely incomparable to the other party. Do it all over again. It's faster than it was just now. The arms have to be raised a little higher. Only when you wipe your neck like this will you have the strength. It's too low this time. A little bit higher. That's high again. Don't fight here, fools. That's right, that's it. I feel like I'm getting better. But this is only temporary. Look at his state. Give him some time. Look at it, but Qingming didn't notice it. A man also came. Take a deep breath during the day. Almost roaring at the lime, shouting, "What are you doing?" The boy was stunned. This guy is here. However, daylight has only just arrived. He saw senior sister Lu playing with lime on the big night. The vinegar jar turned over and over. So I didn't say a word. Draw your sword. Condensed the sword chi and flew towards the lime. I'm afraid this posture wants to kill the boy on the spot. Lime's eyes also froze. A month of walking immediately greeted the day. Then he condensed on his left foot. In an instant, it kicked at the blade of the day's sword. The moment when the two clashed. The winds around him cleared the spirits. He really used his body to resist the slash of the real sword. During the day, it will also be calm. I saw that the young man was silent. Push under your feet. This big brother of the white generation is like a cannonball. Was slammed to the ground. The dust cleared. The corners of Lime's mouth also brought helplessness. He actually used sword chi against himself. How big your heart is. But suddenly he remembered the state of the girl just now. This trouble won't let him go mad. If you were disturbed by the sound just now, just when the lime comes closer to take a look, Lu Yixue's appearance, apparently still immersed in his own world. Such a big movement. That's too slow, isn't it? But luckily, it is. At this moment, a voice sounded again. You kid, do you know what you're doing? A man who practices martial arts. Don't you know how important the realm of selflessness is? I really didn't like you before, but I didn't expect that. You're so bastard that you want to interfere with my selfless aunt. It was clear that he hadn't noticed his problem at all. You don't even say a word. Carrying the sword chi, he rushed over. What if it hurts your esteemed senior sister Lu? During the day, I still want to defend myself. If you don't resist, how could there be such a big movement? Do you want me to die? It's not just killing intent. There's still a sword aura on the sword. You did what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Dare you say no? The atmosphere between the two fell silent for a moment. Qingming is also served. Are these two generations of disciples full of neuropathy? Even if there is a wind criticism in a group. Not so. Much more, and during the day. He found it even more ridiculous now. I did have a murderous intent just now. A blow that can contain sword energy. This guy didn't hurt at all. But he can't be allowed to continue to be arrogant. Today's events. You leave now. Otherwise, I will teach you a lesson as a martial artist. Qingming is very happy to be able to give such a chance during the day. But he glanced behind him, a state of bleeding, although it would be better to exercise a little. But the help I gave him should be enough for him to last a lifetime. But now there's a guy in the way. In order to help Huashan improve as a whole, it's another thing to teach this idiot a lesson. So Qingming proposed to be his uncle during the day. If the bullying of teachers and nephews spreads, it will not be decent. Or let's make an agreement. However, during the day, he didn't wait for the boy to finish. He interrupted, "You think I'm here? We'll also care about decency and indecency. If they want to punish me, it's a big deal to endure it later. It's just that now there is no one to shelter you." Roar these words. Quite a man. But I have a better way. We can swear to each other. Never tell anyone else about this. Other words, even if I get beaten, I will never complain to my uncles and ancestors. So, we don't have to worry about Uncle Sure. Mentorship and stuff. Settle things out neatly. Leave no future behind. It's good for all. Isn't it a frown during the day? He really couldn't understand what Qingming had in mind. But I saw that he couldn't help but hum twice. You're kind of a man. As you wish. I can swear. I'm never going to tell anyone else about tonight. In this contest. I'm not your uncle. You're not my nephew either. I'll be in this tournament again. Get rid of all the bad emotions that are being felt towards you. And before that, impassioned during the day, Qingming suddenly laughed at the competition. What a joust! Who said this is a joust? Stinky boy, you're done. During the day, he looked confused. This kid is just getting started. Why does it look so scary? Under the hair at the bottom of my heart, he shouted. Are you crazy? And Lime is faintly saying that you are wrong. It's not me who is crazy, if not a madman. How could you provoke me? The day of this anger gritted his teeth. Until the end, it's going to be so crazy. He really couldn't take it anymore. I'll kill you. I saw that the daytime shot was full force. Moves with sword energy are formed all around the body. A blade that seems to tear through the air. And Qingming was already powerless to complain about this rough sword change. It's even more ridiculous. During the day, while performing a sword change, the change of tactics is more like a leap forward. This kind of swordsmanship is not a Huashan thing. Li Songbai learned Huashan's sword. This kid also learns the orthodoxy of central and southern China. It's really a group of unfilial descendants. With the rush of the day, he shouted, I'm going to fix your stinky problem today. And Qingming attacked and dodged at the same time. The fun of the past is long gone. No one has ever been able to fix my stink. Just for a moment, Qingming's fist had already slammed into the face door of the day. He was in an almost distorted posture, was smashed by a punch and flew upside down. With a loud bang, a blank space in the mind during the day. Faster than physical pain. Just a face. I was beaten by the other party and lost my combat power. How so? The voice was faint. But Qingling also listened to it really. He said you were free. The sword moves created for change have been changed. How can it not leave a flaw? The reason why you think it's incredible, it's because of the opponents you've met in the past. It's all about the same strength as you. And you may be a little ahead of those juniors now. But the advantage is actually not huge. They'll be able to catch up with you soon. And the day dawned on his feet. He didn't understand. Qingling is a disciple who has just started. And how do you know this? But this will Lime no longer want to explain anything. Made the same mistake as Li Songbai during the day. But it's not a big deal anymore. He has the experience to reach the top. Let's take a look at the current situation. It's easy to see the problem. Chastity, then Lime said lightly. We should be grateful for the identity of Huashan disciple. Although I would love to beat you up. But after all, you are still a lovely Huashan disciple. So instead of beating you, it is better to help you on the right path. But don't worry. I'm not going to let you scrap it. Some people say that Huashan swordsmanship is to imitate plum blossoms. But in fact, forget it. You don't understand it. You should understand while being beaten. The boy said, The sword in his hand is obviously very slow, but turned into an afterimage in front of his eyes during the day. His eyes were filled with doubt and disbelief. But the next second, all that was left in front of him was countless sword shadows. Then I heard a sound of the lower limbs. He felt as if he had been pierced by the hilt of his sword. Body, bones, shoulders, wrist, waist, knees and ankles, and then on the shoulder. Qing Ling's voice would have been heard to him. It's as if the devil strikes him every time. They all seem to weigh as much as 1,000 pounds. Fortunately, the boy suddenly stopped the phantom sword. During the day, I thought that the other party had vented enough. Look up, just in front of Qing Ling's demonic face. This time it's a runoff. With Qing Ling's pain, he smashed it. He was beaten during the day and lost consciousness. The last question that came to my mind before fainting was, why did he shout 5 times? But he hit me 6 times. In the middle of the day, I slowly opened my eyes. It happened to the harmless face of Qing Ling. He was completely scared. Trembling under stress, he protected his head. See him like this. The boy was still very satisfied. Was unilaterally beaten like this. During the day, there was no discussion of victory or defeat. I want to ask you, why are you so strong? Hear this. Qing Ming was actually quite surprised. This kid's heart is so high. I realized the reality so quickly. Thereupon, only then did he temporarily let go of the idea of continuing to beat him. Squatting down, to put it mildly, it's not that I'm strong. It's that Uncle Sure, you're too weak. I wanted to refute during the day. It can be painful in the body. He really couldn't say a few complete sentences. I had to open my mouth, squeeze out a sentence that I'm daytime.